Hello everyone, and this is Plain Dude 777. Welcome back to another video where today we'll be looking at a more unique episode where we'll be looking at the LNER first class train ride from Edinburgh, Scotland to London. Now it's not always this often that I get to take a train since I'm always flying, but LNER just happened to have a good deal on their first class product, and after some research as well as finding out that this route had their particular dine option, I decided to give it a go. So here we are in Edinburgh station, as you can see, with some LNER ads around. It is quite a spacious station with some very nice overhead lighting. After going into customer reception, we made our way to the first class lounge here. There are stairs leading up to the lounge, but there's also an elevator to the side. And here we are at the lounge. Overall, I would say it's a pretty good lounge. A little small, but it is modern and it has all the snacks and drinks that you will need, from hot chocolate to coffee and from sparkling to still water. It is pretty much the perfect place to rest before your long trip. I didn't have too long in the lounge, but I will say that I did have a nice cup of hot chocolate as well as some snacks that were quite delicious, including a nice view of the rest of the train station. And just as we arrived, it was almost time for us to leave. Overall, I would say that the lounge is comfortable enough where you could spend a good hour or two in here while you wait for your train. Speaking of train, there is our train right there, all the way to London King's Cross on this LNER train. And here we are on platform 6, where this train will take us all the way to London King's Cross in a trip that will last about 4 hours, including a few stops on the way, including Newcastle and York. Back here is sort of the economy class cabin, if you will. So we walked all the way closer to the front, where our seats in first class were. And here we are at the LNER first class seat, featuring a 2-1 configuration. And here is the menu that we'll have, which we specifically chose for this time because they provided the dine option for dining, which includes a more comprehensive menu. Here's the breakfast, brunch, and the lunch evening menu. And here's the rest of the view outside of our train. As we're sitting in the 2-2 seat, we do get a very strong power socket, and the seat is wider and more comfortable than you would see in the regular cabin. And almost as soon as we boarded, it was time for us to depart. Here we are slowly exiting Edinburgh Waverley station, and we're on our way to London. As for the train itself, it can go quite fast overall, but it can be a little bit unsteady. Now here's a look at the service itself. As we are sitting in a 4-seater, we do get a table and 4 seats facing each other. The seating is comfortable, but like I said before, the faster the train moves, overall the ride can be a little bumpy, to say the least. When I hear stories about Asian trains, especially the Shinkansen, moving at a very smooth pace, I sort of envy it. Now here's a look at the drink service, which are all included and free as part of the service. Of course, I got myself the classic Scotch whiskey with a Pepsi Max mixer, as well as a hot chocolate and some snacks. You can order these again and again, however much you want throughout the ride. Here's another nice view of the British countryside. And here's a closer look at the seat itself and what the cabin looks like. This is Coach K, of course, with the LNER first class branding. And as you can see, the cabin is configured in a 2-1 configuration. The cabin itself is quite clean and tidy, and the train attendants are also very kind and attentive to the passengers' needs. Here is a nice view of one of the towns that we were passing by. And in a moment, we already arrived in Newcastle. It was just a quick stop to pick up more passengers on our way to London. And so we decided to start the meal service after Newcastle, in which you could dine at any time, I believe, at least before York. And already here we are in Newcastle. What I do like about these stops is that they are quite quick and very efficient, and almost as soon as we stopped, as soon as everyone got on board, we already left Newcastle. Overall, I would say the LNER train experience is quite efficient, albeit a little bumpy. And once again, we made multiple stops, including this one in Darlington, where it was here that I decided that I wanted to try out the meal service. For my dish, I decided to have the pie, which was very delicious, surprisingly so, as it went above my expectations. It was very flavorful and fulfilling. Of course, I also got myself some extra drinks, and here's what one of the choices of dessert is, which is the lemon and elderflower pot. My companion had the Asian dish, which admittedly wasn't as good, so I would stick with the pie if you could find that option. Here is another look at the first class cabin itself. This particular car is split in half between the regular class and first class, so it is a little smaller. You have the group seats to your left and the single seats to your right, making travel optimal for both group and single travelers. Here is another look at the first class cabin, where you go in between the cars. Here's a very beautiful view of the British countryside. And as we go into the next car, you can see that is where the restroom is. Overall, the restroom use was nice and spacious, albeit very bumpy. And now, here we are at our last pre-stop before London, which is York, because after York there will be no more stops, all the way until our final destination at London King's Cross. As I spent the next few hours enjoying my overall ride back to London, it got me thinking. I could have very well easily flown from Edinburgh to London in what might have been a quicker and possibly even cheaper trip. However, I did enjoy the freedom that I had to walk around and enjoy the car of the train, especially with first class service, and some very nice countryside views. Albeit, I did wish that the ride was less bumpy. Whether LNER decides to invest in newer trains or whatever the technology is, I'm not sure. But overall, I really quite enjoyed my experience with LNER first class. And here we are finally into our approach into London. And as you can kind of see from the camera shake, it is still a bumpy of a ride as ever, but eventually we slowed down as we made our final stop into London King's Cross. Like I said, it was an enjoyable journey that really could have used some reduction in bumps. But I would honestly take this sort of train ride over some of the flight options from Edinburgh to London, which is why I will give this first class LNER product a 8 out of 10 overall. It just needs a few more improvements in the refinement of the service, as well as perhaps the train steadiness technology itself. And that's it from me, Plain Dude 777, or at least Train Dude 777 today. And thank you all for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you next time.